My mother-in-law demanded $50,000 for a breast augmentation. When I refused, my husband slapped me so hard, my ears rang. I called my executive assistant, fired him from his director position, and repossessed our luxury mansion. He laughed, thinking it was a bluff, but 30 minutes later, his entire world collapsed. For 7 years of my prime, I stayed behind the curtain. I used my hidden wealth and corporate influence to mold a penniless man into a respected corporate director, allowing him to call the shots. I concealed my identity as the CEO and majority shareholder of a massive holding company just to protect his fragile ego. And my reward? On the night of our housewarming party, sitting in a $15 million mansion that I had secretly paid for, he slapped me to the floor, calling me a useless, freeloading housewife, all because I wouldn't toss $50,000 at his mother for plastic surgery. But they didn't know that the very power they relied on to humiliate me could evaporate with a single snap of my fingers. Tonight, the luxury waterfront estate in the Hamptons was brilliantly illuminated by crystal chandeliers. We had just finished moving into the $15 million European-style mansion. The guests from the housewarming party had finally left, leaving behind a stale mixture of expensive wine, overpowering perfume, and burnt cigar smoke. I was wearing a simple cream silk dress, my hair falling loose after an entire evening of playing the dutiful, submissive wife. I had spent the night walking a step behind Patrick, my husband, pouring drinks, smiling, and enduring the fake flattery of his subordinates. I was about to clear the last crystal glasses from the kitchen island when Susan, my mother-in-law, strutted down the oak staircase. She was draped in a glossy silk robe, a string of pearls, the size of grapes, around her neck. A gift I had gritted my teeth and swiped my card to buy for her just last month. Her face was flushed with alcohol, but her eyes still gleamed with the sharp, greedy glint of a woman who had spent her life digging for gold. She plopped heavily onto the imported Italian leather sofa, crossed her legs, and tapped her manicured nails against the glass coffee table. "Harper, make me a glass of lemon water to sober up and come here. I need to talk to you. Hurry up. You're a director's wife now, but you still move like a maid." "Mom, I'm in the middle of cleaning this up. Can you give me a minute? Patrick drank a lot tonight too. Can we talk about this tomorrow?" "What do you mean tomorrow? This is urgent. Get over here." I sighed and walked over. "I'm listening. What do you need?" "Here's what I'm thinking," she began. "We just moved into the biggest estate in the neighborhood. Patrick's guests tonight were all CEOs and vice presidents. When I stood there greeting them, I realized my face has too many wrinkles and my figure is sagging. People will judge our Patrick. The ladies at the country club are planning a trip to a clinic in Beverly Hills for breast augmentations and gold thread facelifts. The package is only $50,000. Transfer that to my account tonight so I can put down the deposit tomorrow morning." $50,000? "Mom, that's not a small amount of money. Besides, you're over 60. Cosmetic surgery, especially breast augmentation at your age, is extremely dangerous. You can't just throw money at a clinic and expect it to be safe. Plus, we just bought this house and furnished it. We don't have that kind of liquid cash lying around." "Oh, stop your excuses. What do you mean dangerous? People in their 70s get work done all the time. You're just stingy with my son's money. Patrick is a regional director now. He makes hundreds of thousands a year. He can afford a $15 million house, so what is $50,000 for his mother's beauty? I raised him to be successful, and now that he's making money, I deserve to enjoy it. You sit at home living off his dime, holding out your hand for allowance, so don't lecture me. Are you going to transfer it or not? Patrick's salary is barely enough to cover our household expenses and his networking events. You know the economy is tough right now. I cannot transfer $50,000 to you for something so useless and risky." I do not agree. My refusal was cold and absolute. I didn't care about the $50,000. To me, $50,000 was the equivalent of 1 hour's revenue at a single subsidiary of the conglomerate I controlled. But I was disgusted by her irrational entitlement, her arrogant belief that she owned the world. Most of all, I was disgusted that she thought this money was earned by her son's own hands. In reality, his director's chair and this mansion were paid for with my blood, sweat, and shadow maneuvering, all to save face for a husband with little talent but massive pride. At that moment, heavy, stumbling footsteps came from the hallway. Patrick, the man I had dedicated 7 years of my youth to molding, walked in. His dress shirt was untucked, his tie loosened. His face was thunderous, reeking of expensive scotch and the stench of arrogance. He had heard the conversation and, without caring about right or wrong, immediately took his mother's side. "What did you just say? You don't agree? What right do you have to not agree in this house, Harper? Patrick, you're drunk. Go to bed. We can talk about this tomorrow when you're sober. $50,000 for plastic surgery at your mother's age is too dangerous." I was just advising her. Advising? Look at yourself. What right do you have to advise my mother? For 7 years, you've been a ragged shadow in the kitchen. I go out there, I hustle, I carry this family on my back, networking until my teeth ache to climb to the director's seat. I make the money. I bought this house. If my mother wants 50 grand or 5 million, I'll give it to her. You are nothing but a freeloading housewife. Just because I give you grocery money doesn't mean you're the boss here. Transfer the money to my mother right now, before I lose my temper. You say I'm freeloading? That you make the money? Patrick, do you remember where the down payment for this house came from? The furniture? The luxury car you drive to network? It came from my savings. From the years I stayed up late doing freelance accounting while you paid no attention. Don't let a few glasses of scotch blind you, and let you trample on your wife's sacrifices. Sacrifices? Are your 3 home-cooked meals a day worth a $15 million mansion? Don't bring up the pocket change you brought from your parents' house to take credit for my success. If I wasn't a director, would you be living in this lap of luxury? Are you still standing there arguing? I told you to open your phone and transfer the money right now. My heart felt like it was being crushed by an invisible hand. 7 years. For 7 years, I played the fool, pretending to be a low-income wife so he wouldn't feel an inferiority complex. I used my connections as CEO to funnel massive contracts to his company, creating the stepping stones for his promotion. I used my private funds to secretly pay the massive mortgage on this mansion, lying that my friends helped arrange a low-interest loan. All my endurance, my monumental cover-up at this moment, under his bloodshot eyes, was reduced to the worthlessness of a parasite. I straightened my back and looked him dead in the eye. My fists clenched. My eyes were completely dry. I had no tears left to shed for him. I will say it one last time. I am not transferring a single cent. No. Smack. A deafening sound shattered the luxurious silence of the mansion. Patrick's swing was so forceful it knocked me off balance. I fell backward, my forehead slamming into the edge of the marble coffee table. A blinding pain shot through my skull, and my ears rang. The metallic taste of blood instantly seeped into the corner of my mouth. I touched my lip, looking at the bright red streak on my fingertips. Lying on the freezing marble floor, I slowly raised my head. Susan didn't even flinch. She sat with her arms crossed, smirking triumphantly. Patrick stood towering over me, his chest heaving, his eyes devoid of a single ounce of remorse. He pointed a finger right at my face and roared, "That slap is to teach you your place in this house. Don't think that just because I indulged you for a few years, you can climb over my mother and me. A woman who doesn't make money needs to bow her head and obey. If that money isn't in my mother's account by tomorrow morning, you can pack your bags and get the hell out of my house." I sat slumped on the cold stone. The physical pain was nothing compared to the shattering of my soul. The memory of a man who once promised me the world, who shakily held a cheap mall ring to propose to me in the rain 7 years ago, was completely dead. Standing before me was a predator, delusional about an illusory power he thought he had built himself. He wanted to kick me out of this house? He thought he held my life in his hands? I started to laugh. It began small, a low chuckle in my throat, before growing louder, echoing through the empty space. My laugh was so cold, mournful, and piercing that the smug smile on Susan's face froze. Patrick frowned, taking a half step back. What are you laughing at? Are you crazy? You get slapped and you laugh? I slowly pushed myself up. My movements were deliberately graceful, radiating an icy aura that seemed to drop the room's temperature by several degrees. I smoothed down my silk dress, grabbed a tissue from the table, and wiped the blood from my mouth. My eyes no longer held the submissive, enduring look of a gentle wife. It was the gaze of an apex predator looking at prey about to fall into a trap. I calmly pulled my phone from my coat pocket on the rack and dialed a highly secured number 1 I hadn't called in his presence for 7 years. It rang exactly once before a deep, respectful male voice answered on speakerphone, which I had intentionally turned up to the max. Liam. Activate all CEO executive privileges, I commanded. Call the board of directors at Alpha Solutions immediately. Revoke Patrick Vance's position as regional director. Cancel all corporate and secondary credit cards under his and Susan Vance's names. Freeze all linked bank accounts. And bring the real estate portfolio files for this Hamptons estate to my location. It's time to take everything back. The voice on the other end didn't question me for a second. Yes, Madam CEO. I will be there in 30 minutes. I ended the call and tossed the phone onto the glass table. It landed with a sharp clack. I crossed my arms, lifting my chin to look at the two pale faces in front of me. Patrick stood rooted to the spot. The alcohol in his system seemed to have been shocked right out of him. He looked at the phone, then at me, but a few seconds later, his arrogant nature resurfaced. He clapped his hands mockingly and burst out laughing. Oh, Harper! Have you been watching too many soap operas? You've lost your mind. CEO. Assistant Liam? Which Uber driver did you pay to act this out to scare me? You think one phone call can get me fired? I bled for that director position. The CEO of the parent company respects me. Who the hell are you to revoke anything? Oh my God, Susan chimed in, clutching her pearls. Our family is cursed with a psycho daughter-in-law. You hit her so hard she lost her marbles, Patrick. Kick her out tonight. If she stays, she might take a knife to us in our sleep. CEO. A CEO who scrubs the toilets in this house? I'm dying of laughter. They laughed. The laughter of ultimate ignorance and arrogance. They had absolutely no idea that the mysterious, faceless CEO of Apex Holdings, the parent company backing Alpha Solutions all these years, was Harper Vance, the name printed on the ID of the woman they had just slapped to the floor. I wasn't angry. Watching these two fools dancing on the edge of a cliff, I only felt pity. I slowly pulled out a bar stool at the kitchen island, sat down elegantly, and poured myself a glass of iced water. I raised the glass, smiled faintly, and looked right into Patrick's eyes. Keep laughing, Patrick. Enjoy your title as director for another 30 minutes. The countdown has started. Let's see if you can keep up this arrogant attitude when you realize you're nothing but a puppet on a chessboard I built. The air in the room suddenly thickened. My eerie calmness caused Patrick's laughter to trail off into silence. He narrowed his eyes at me, a vague sense of foreboding creeping into his traitorous mind. Tick-tock. The grandfather clock on the wall echoed in the night. The 30-minute countdown had begun, and the most destructive storm of their lives had officially made landfall. The 30 minutes ticked by slowly against the heavy brass pendulum of the clock in the living room. For someone awaiting death, 30 minutes might seem fleeting, but for these two people swimming in an illusion of wealth and power they invented, it was plenty of time to display the absolute depths of their shallowness. I sat quietly on the bar stool, both hands wrapped around my cold glass of water. On the outside, I was as calm as a lake in autumn, but inside, memories of my 7 years of youth were surging bitter and agonizingly ironic. I met Patrick when he was just a lowly sales rep, driving a beat-up sedan, wearing a frayed collar shirt, knocking on corporate doors to sell cheap management software. Back then, I had just inherited the empire from my late father, single-handedly steering our family conglomerate through a massive economic crisis. I was surrounded by heirs to fortunes and successful businessmen who laid roses at my feet. but I hated the superficial shell and calculated motives of high society. I craved a simple, sincere love, a man who could eat street food with me, hold my hand in the rain, and love me without an agenda. Then Patrick appeared. His insecurity and pitiful efforts back then fooled me. I hid my identity as an heiress, rented a tiny studio apartment, and claimed to be an ordinary office worker to date him. I still vividly remember that pouring rain when Patrick kneeled in the flooded lobby of my building, shivering as he slid a cheap $50 silver ring onto my finger. He said he was poor, but he would use his life to protect me and never let me shed a single tear. The vows of a poor man truly are the cheapest, most easily forgotten fiction in the world. Why are you just sitting there? Patrick sneered. Calculating where you're going to sleep tonight when I kick you to the curb? Let me tell you, a divorced woman with nothing to her name belongs in the gutter. But if you humble yourself, come over here and apologize to my mother. And transfer the money like a good little wife. I might just consider our years together and let you stay. Don't act all high and mighty with me. Oh, don't pity her, Patrick. Susan scoffed. A woman who is cheap and stingy with her husband's family is trash. A man with your money and power could have 20-year-old supermodels lining up from here to Manhattan. Why drag around this old, useless wife? Let her call her little assistant over. Let's see it. It's probably the pizza delivery boy playing pretend. I've lived over 60 years and I've never seen someone so stupid try to put on a play. My silence only seemed to fuel their arrogance. I didn't reply. I just cast my gaze around the mansion. Every inch of this house bore my signature. From the imported Italian leather sofa Susan was currently draped over, to the Czech crystal chandeliers on the ceiling, to the luxury ergonomic office chair Patrick was so proud of. Every single thing, without exception, was bought with my money and arranged by me. 5 years ago, Patrick was failing at his job. He drowned himself in alcohol, broke furniture, and cursed the unfairness of the world. To protect the fragile ego of the man I loved, I secretly ordered Apex Holdings to acquire Alpha Solutions, his employer. I planted my people on the board and engineered massive contracts to accidentally fall into Patrick's lap. I turned him from a nobody into the company's rising star. I provided the money to buy this house and his luxury cars, lying that I had borrowed it from friends, using his paychecks to pay the mortgage so he could feel the pride of being the breadwinner. I had lifted him up with my own bleeding hands, and today, he used the very hands that held my dirty money to slap me in the face. My mother is right. Keeping you here ruins the feng shui of a $15 million home, Patrick spat. Look around. The marble floor you're standing on, the glass you're holding, is any of it bought with your money? What right do you have to act superior? CEO? Ha! If you're a CEO, I'm the President of the United States. Pack your bags by tomorrow morning, or I'll have security drag you out. That'll be humiliating for you in front of the neighbors. Wait, Patrick, Susan interrupted. Tell her to leave the debit card. The money on there is what you give her for groceries. She probably skimmed off the top to hoard it. She doesn't get to take a single dime when she leaves. Leave the clothes and bags too. She came with nothing. She leaves with nothing. Biting the hand that feeds you. The greed of human beings is truly a bottomless pit. Not only did they want to throw me out, but they also wanted to strip me of the hard-earned money they falsely believed was theirs. I gently swirled the water in my glass. The light from the chandelier reflected off the surface. For 7 years, I had lived in a play I directed myself. Now, it was time to drop the curtain and return the actors to their true, pathetic identities. Back to the mud. Patrick. Susan. You two seem very proud of this mansion, don't you? Proud of your director title, too. But Patrick, have you ever asked yourself why a man with mediocre education, terrible management skills, and zero charisma continuously closed multi-million-dollar contracts with major conglomerates? Why, every time you screwed up the financials, the company easily looked the other way? Did you really think you were a genius? Shut your mouth, Patrick yelled. What do you know about business to judge me? That was my talent. My clients respected my reputation. Are you jealous? Jealous that the poor loser you married climbed to the top, while you'll always just be a housewife scrubbing pots? My son is a dragon, a phoenix. He is destined for wealth. Susan shrieked. Unlike a cursed woman like you, who holds him back. Stop talking and pack your bags. And don't forget to transfer the $50,000 before you go. I couldn't hold it in anymore. A heavy sigh escaped my chest. Their delusion had reached an incurable stage. Just then, the minute hand of the grandfather clock ticked to the 12. Exactly 30 minutes. Not a second more. The air in the room seemed to freeze. I slammed my glass down on the counter. A sharp crack rang out. The time for arrogance was over. The brutal truth was about to begin. Ding dong. Ding dong. The doorbell rang rapid, sharp, and dry, tearing through the smug atmosphere of the mansion. To me, it was the symphony of liberation. To Patrick and his mother, it was just a midnight nuisance. Susan frowned, smoothing her silk robe, and nodded toward the massive oak doors. Who on earth is ringing the bell like a maniac at this hour? I remained motionless on the stool, arms crossed, staring dead at Patrick. You're the man of the house, aren't you, Director Vance? Go open your door. I'm just a freeloader about to be kicked out. I have no right to touch such an expensive door. You're real brave talking back to me, Patrick growled. Fine, let me see what maniac is at my door. When I'm done, I'm settling the score with you. Patrick stomped heavily toward the foyer. He aggressively yanked the deadbolt and threw the heavy oak doors wide open. The glaring security lights illuminated his red, furious face. But in less than a fraction of a second, his aggressive expression froze solid. His jaw dropped, his eyes widened to their limits, and his entire body stiffened as if struck by lightning. Standing on the porch was not neighborhood security. It wasn't a delivery driver. It was a team of 5 men in impeccably tailored, pitch-black suits, exuding a chilling, suffocating aura of professional lethality. Leading them was Liam, the highest-ranking executive assistant at Apex Holdings, the man who wielded power second only to mine. Liam stood perfectly straight, a leather briefcase in hand. His face was cold as a glacier. His sharp eyes piercing right through Patrick as if looking at a piece of trash blocking his way. Who are you people? What are you doing at my house in the middle of the night? Do you know this is the private residence of the regional director of Alpha Solutions? Liam didn't blink. He didn't dignify Patrick with a single word. He simply took a step forward and shoved Patrick's shoulder aside. The push didn't use much force, but it carried absolute authority, making Patrick stumble backward, nearly falling over. The 5 men stepped over the threshold, their leather Oxfords clicking loudly against the marble floor. They marched straight into the living room, walked right past Susan, who was sitting on the sofa with her mouth hanging open, and stopped in a perfect line right in front of me. In unison, all 5 men bowed deeply at a 90-degree angle. Their voices rang out loud, clear, and perfectly synchronized. Good evening, Madam CEO. We have arrived. All of your directives have been executed. All the oxygen seemed to be sucked out of the mansion. The silence was so profound you could hear a pin drop. Susan dropped her phone, her eyes bulging, her jaw trembling violently. Patrick was clutching the hallway wall, his breathing ragged, his chest heaving. The brain of a mediocre man like him was likely fighting to reject the terrifying reality unfolding before his eyes. What? What is this? Patrick's voice was high-pitched and broken with panic. Who are you calling CEO? Harper, where did you hire these thugs from to play dress-up? Don't think putting on some suits is going to fool me. Get out. Get the hell out of my house before I call the cops. He lunged toward Liam, reaching for the briefcase. But 2 corporate security agents stepped forward with lightning speed. They twisted his arms behind his back and pinned him forcefully to the wall. I gave Liam a slight nod. The assistant understood. He calmly opened his briefcase and pulled out a stack of documents stamped with the crimson seal of the Apex Holdings Board of Directors. Liam adjusted his glasses and spoke in a monotone, emotionless voice like a machine reading a death sentence. Mr. Patrick Vance. Employee ID is 7189. On behalf of the Board of Directors of Apex Holdings, I am officially notifying you that as of 11:45 p.m. tonight, you are immediately terminated from all positions at Alpha Solutions, including your role as Regional Director. The grounds for termination are incompetence, severe violation of corporate ethics, and the complete withdrawal of support from the CEO. Patrick glared, struggling in vain. You're lying. Who the hell are you to fire me? I was appointed by the regional president himself. These papers are fake. Harper, you dare forge corporate documents to scare me? Do you know you'll go to federal prison for this? Just as the words left his mouth, Patrick's expensive smartphone buzzed frantically in his pocket. The aggressive ringtone startled him. The security men released him. Shaking uncontrollably, he pulled out his phone. The caller ID flashed. Regional President, Alpha Solutions. It was like he had found a life preserver. He frantically swiped the screen and put it on speakerphone. Ready to threaten us. Boss. You called at the perfect time. There's a gang of frauds at my house, pretending to be from corporate. Send security. He didn't even get to finish his sentence. The furious roar of the regional president tore through the night, shattering Patrick's last shred of hope. Patrick, you stupid son of a bitch. What the hell did you do to piss off the ultimate CEO? Do you know that because of you, my entire billion-dollar project pipeline is frozen? Don't you ever show your face at the company again? Security is packing your desk into a cardboard box and tossing it in the dumpster tomorrow. You're dead in this industry. Never let me see your face again. Beep. 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 The call ended abruptly, leaving behind the hollow sound of a dead line. The phone slipped from Patrick's hand, crashing onto the marble floor, shattering the screen. His knees gave out. He collapsed onto the floor, his face draining from red to a ghastly, deathly pale. He looked up at me with eyes filled with absolute, unadulterated terror. The woman in the thin silk dress. The woman he had slapped across the face 30 minutes ago and called a parasite. Now sitting in absolute majesty, surrounded by the most powerful corporate enforcers in the country. He finally realized he wasn't a dragon or a phoenix. He was just a parasite that the host had finally decided to rip out. The mansion was completely silent, save for Patrick's ragged gasping and the sound of Susan's teeth chattering. The truth had been exposed too fast, too brutally, completely obliterating the fake high society world they had clung to look down on me. I slowly stood up, walking with measured, elegant steps toward Patrick, who was kneeling on the floor. Every step I took was a knife, carving into his shredded pride. How is it, Director Vance? The title you claimed you bled and sweat for vanished pretty fast, didn't it? Did you ever ask yourself why a man with mediocre skills, awful English grammar, and pathetic management abilities kept landing multi-million-dollar contracts with Fortune 500 companies? Did you think you were a genius? Shut up. Patrick mumbled, broken. My son is a dragon. He has a destiny of wealth. Susan's earlier words echoed in my mind. I sighed. You two are truly delusional. You thought the president of Alpha Solutions fired you for no reason? Alpha Solutions is a tiny subsidiary entirely owned by Apex Holdings. And Harper Vance, the parasite in your mouth and the CEO and 70% majority shareholder of Apex Holdings. No, impossible. Patrick babbled like a madman. Harper, you're tricking me, right? You acted for 7 years? How could you be the CEO? You lied. Everything is mine. It's mine. His pathetic state didn't evoke a single drop of pity in me. I shifted my gaze to Susan. My mother-in-law was now clutching her pearl necklace for dear life, shrinking into the corner of the sofa like a frightened turtle. She tried to salvage her last ounce of dignity, her voice shrill and trembling. Don't you threaten us. So what if he lost his job? My son is talented, he can make money anywhere, and this house. This $15 million house is under Patrick's name. Even if you are the CEO, you have no right to kick us out onto the street. If you won't give me the $50,000, I'll swipe Patrick's black card myself. This is my house. She frantically dug into her designer purse and pulled out the Amex black card I had issued for Patrick. Shaking, she opened an airline app on her phone, trying to book a first-class ticket to Beverly Hills, desperate to prove she still had money and power. But as soon as she hit purchase, the screen flashed crimson red, transaction declined, account frozen. Her eyes bugged out. She tapped the screen over and over, cursing under her breath. Liam stepped forward, pushing up his glasses, and dumped the final bucket of ice water over the greedy woman's head. You are wasting your time. Every credit card and account linked to Patrick Vance and yourself has been frozen by the bank. By order of CEO Vance. All the funds in those accounts never belonged to your son, they were dispersed from the CEO's private trust. Furthermore, Liam continued, pulling a heavy, notarized document from his briefcase. You mentioned the ownership of this estate, correct? He held the original deed up to Susan and Patrick's faces. Look closely. Patrick Vance's name has never been on the deed to this $15 million property. The sole legal owner is Apex Real Estate Holdings, a company 100% owned by CEO Vance. The closing documents Patrick held were internal decoys created to stroke his ego. Simply put, you two have been squatting on our CEO's property. Patrick's head snapped up. His eyes were shattered glass. He stared at the deed, his pale lips trembling. The high society nest he used to boast to his friends about, the weapon he used to trample his wife, was actually an iron cage I had built for him. Harper, you're so cruel, Patrick whispered. Why did you do this to me? I'm your husband. You hid your identity, you lied to me, you turned me into a puppet. A scarecrow for you to pull the strings. And now you take it all away and back me into a corner? You're evil. Cruel? Evil? I burst into a furious laugh, stepping forward, grabbing him by his wrinkled collar, and yanking him up to eye level. The pent-up resentment of 7 years meant I was no longer a weak woman. What right do you have to speak of cruelty? When you were drowning in debt, who sold her late mother's jewelry to bail you out? Who stayed up all night writing the proposals you took to your bosses to claim credit for? I hid my identity because I was terrified of bruising your pathetic, fragile ego. I gave you the spotlight. I stepped back to wash dishes and cook meals so you could feel like a god among men. I shoved him hard. He slammed into the wall and slid down to the floor. And how did you repay me? With betrayal. With a bloody slap to my face when I refused to throw my hard-earned money at your mother for plastic surgery. You said you made the money? Without me, you are a pathetic street hustler. I gave you everything, and I can take it all back in the blink of an eye. Your high society mask is ripped. Patrick. Go back to being the penniless loser you always were. I turned to look at Susan. Her makeup was melting off her face with sweat. The pearls around her neck looked utterly ridiculous. Mom, you asked for $50,000 and I said no. But I can give you a lesson instead. Look at the things draped over your body. Your silk robe, your pearls, your designer bag. Did your son buy a single one of them with his own merit? You are so proud of birthing a talented son, but you never taught him how to be a man. Wake up from your dream. You and your son have nothing. Everything is mine. I turned away. Liam. Do your job. Yes, Madam CEO. Liam looked at the security team. By order of the CEO, Mr. Patrick Vance and Miss Susan Vance are to vacate this property immediately. You are only permitted to take basic toiletries and clothing that is not designer brand paid for by the CEO. All valuable assets, including the luxury vehicles in the garage, are seized. You have 15 minutes to pack. If you resist, we will use force and have you arrested for trespassing. What? Kicked out into the night. Susan wailed. Harper, I'm sorry. I was wrong. I don't want the surgery anymore. Please, have pity on an old woman. Let me stay just for tonight. I'll leave tomorrow. It's raining outside. Where will I go? Just minutes ago, she was demanding I be stripped of my cards and thrown onto the street with nothing, her tone dripping with venom. Now, she was using her old age to beg for mercy. Too bad, my heart was completely frozen. I walked toward the oak staircase, not bothering to look back, leaving one final, razor-sharp sentence to sever their last hope. 15 minutes. If they aren't out by then, throw them into the street. This house doesn't harbor dogs that bite their owners. 15 minutes is a remarkably short amount of time, but for two people being violently stripped of their golden masks, it felt like a century in purgatory. I stood on the landing of the oak staircase, my hand resting on the intricately carved railing, coldly looking down at the battlefield in the living room. Liam and my corporate lawyers stood like stone statues, monitoring every micro-movement of Patrick and his mother. There was no shouting, no physical violence, but the silent, crushing pressure was suffocating. Patrick sprinted frantically up to the second-floor walk-in closet. He wildly grabbed at Italian bespoke suits and Rolex watches he falsely believed were his. But the moment his hand touched the diamond-encrusted Rolex box, a security guard's iron grip clamped down on his wrist. "Let go of me! This is mine. I wear this to work every day. My friends know it. Let go, I have to take it. Are you robbers? Harper, tell them to let go. This watch was a birthday gift from you last year. It's my personal property." I slowly descended a few steps, my voice slicing through the air like shards of glass. "A birthday gift, Patrick? Your memory is failing you. When I bought that watch last year, I made it very clear it was a corporate bonus for the outstanding regional director. It was paid for by the Apex Holdings Executive Welfare Fund. Since you have been fired for incompetence and ethics violations, corporate assets are repossessed. And those Italian silk suits in the closet? They are corporate networking uniforms. Take them off. You are only allowed to take the cheap mall clothes you bought with your own money 7 years ago." Patrick stumbled back, his eyes bloodshot. He looked at me as if looking at a terrifying monster. He frantically grabbed his cracked phone and started dialing his drinking buddies, the business partners he had sworn brotherhood with at lavish parties. Tyler, it's Patrick. Hey man, I'm in a tight spot at home. Can you wire me a few thousand to a new account? Bail me out tonight, man. Hello? Damn it, he hung up. He dialed again. Brad. Hey, it's Patrick from Alpha. Let me crash at your empty condo for a few days. What? What do you mean you don't know who I am? Hello? I let out a dry, mocking laugh. When the tree falls, the monkeys scatter. In the ruthless business world, when you sit in the director's chair holding the power to approve projects, they call you blood brothers. But when the news of your midnight termination by Apex Holdings is strategically leaked by Liam, you become a plague that needs immediate quarantine. Downstairs, Susan was performing an equally pathetic play. She was frantically stuffing jewelry, gold chains, and stacks of cash from the TV console into a cheap canvas tote bag. She moved quickly and stealthily, like a rat stealing food. But she couldn't bypass my professional security. A lawyer stepped up, decisively snatched the bag from her, and dumped it all out onto the glass table. "Oh my God, robbers! Murderers! You're robbing an old woman. This is my savings from grocery money. This is my emergency gold. Harper, you're letting your thugs bully your mother-in-law? Lord, in heaven, I birthed a brilliant son only to be stripped naked by his vicious wife." Her voice shrieked like a banshee. I didn't even flinch. I walked down to the table and used one finger to push the jewelry aside. "Grocery money you skimmed from my accounts. Gold I bought you for holidays. It all came from my personal trust, Susan. By law, conditional gifts can be revoked when the recipient proves unworthy. Stop screaming. Save your voice for the streets. There's no audience for you here." The clock struck the 15-minute mark. Liam signaled. Four massive security guards stepped up without a word, grabbed Patrick and Susan by the armpits, and hoisted them up. The two of them barely managed to grab a few ragged clothes stuffed into a torn plastic garbage bag. They were dragged across the polished marble hallway, exactly like someone taking out the trash. Outside, a sudden, violent New York thunderstorm had rolled in. Lightning tore across the pitch-black sky, and freezing wind whipped the trees in the courtyard. The massive oak doors were thrown open. A guard chucked the plastic bag into the pouring rain. Patrick and Susan were shoved out, stumbling and falling onto the wet driveway. The freezing rain immediately soaked them, washing away their fake high society makeup and their pathetic pride. "Harper! Harper, open the door!" Susan wailed. "I'm begging you, it's pouring. I'm old, my joints ache. I'll die out here." "Patrick, beg your wife. Tell her we'll sleep in the garage, just don't throw us out in the rain." "Harper. You're a monster," Patrick screamed, his voice breaking. "Karma will get you. Today you kick me out, but tomorrow I'll tell the whole world your true face. I'll sue you for stealing my assets. I won't let you get away with this. Step out and open the gates," I commanded. I stood under the awning, arms crossed, watching the two pathetic silhouettes clinging to the wrought iron gates of the estate. The dim streetlights illuminated Patrick's face, twisted with hatred and despair. He was still using hollow threats to mask his cowardice. I smirked, my voice loud and clear, piercing through the thunderstorm. "Sue me? I dare you. Go to a judge and tell them you, a man without a single dime to his name, demand half of the assets your wife built before you were even married. Let's see which court protects a parasite like you. And Mom. When you asked for $50,000. When you encouraged your son to slap me until I bled. Did you ever picture yourself kneeling in the rain like today? Karma is real, Susan. Get out of my sight. Don't dirty my driveway for another second." I turned on my heel and walked back into the foyer. Liam pulled the heavy oak doors shut. With a heavy slam and the sharp beep of the electronic deadbolt, the warm, luxurious world inside was completely severed from the brutal storm outside. I leaned against the door and closed my eyes. There were no tears. Only an absolute, overwhelming sense of peace. The tumor that had been draining my life for 7 years had finally been excised from the root. The next morning, the sun shone brightly through the floor-to-ceiling windows of my office on the 30th floor of Apex Holdings' Manhattan headquarters. I sat in my leather executive chair, sipping black, unsweetened coffee. The bitter taste on my tongue brought a strange sense of clarity. I was back to being Harper Vance, the iron CEO of Apex, completely shedding the persona of the submissive, enduring housewife. Liam knocked and entered, holding an iPad. His expression was serious, but there was a hidden glint of mockery in his eyes. "Madam CEO, Patrick Vance just uploaded a video to social media. He paid for a PR campaign to push it to the trending pages. The public is reacting very aggressively. Would you like to see it?" I nodded and took the iPad. On the screen was Patrick's haggard, exhausted face. He was intentionally wearing a wrinkled shirt, sitting in a dingy, dimly lit motel room. Next to him, Susan was whimpering, wiping away fake tears. He had begun his performance as the pitiful, hard-working husband betrayed by a cruel wife. To everyone watching, Patrick said to the camera, "I am Patrick Vance, former regional director of Alpha Solutions. Today, I am making this video in absolute despair. I have been framed and destroyed by my own wife. She stole all my assets and kicked my mother and me out of our home in the middle of a thunderstorm. For 7 years, I worked my fingers to the bone, sweating blood and tears to build our family, giving her all my money to manage. But she conspired with thugs to throw me out and steal my $15 million mansion. Last night, my elderly mother had to kneel in the rain and beg, but she slammed the door in our faces. I lost my career, my life savings. Please, help me get justice. Her name is Harper Vance. She is a demon in human skin. I'm suffering so much, everyone." Susan wailed into the camera. I just asked her for a few dollars for my medicine, and she had gang members beat us and strip the gold off my neck. She's a gold digger who scammed my son. Please, have pity on an old woman. Below the video, thousands of comments were pouring in. Most were vicious insults aimed at me. They called me a cruel witch, a greedy gold digger, a woman who deserved to be struck by lightning. A boycott campaign was brewing, aimed at the fake personal information Patrick had intentionally leaked. He was using the exact tactics of a coward, leveraging public opinion to pressure me, playing the victim to force me to back down and pay him off to silence the media. I smiled. A smile of pure contempt. If I were an ordinary woman, I might have panicked and rushed to post a tearful defense. But Patrick forgot that he was declaring war on a CEO who controlled billions of dollars and a massive media apparatus. Liam, what do you think of their acting skills? Terrible, ma'am. But with bad actors, even a good script reveals plot holes. Shall we issue a press release to clear your name? Clear my name? No. Explaining yourself is what the weak do. We won't argue on social media. I want you to crush him with a financial strike. First, release the certified bank statements proving the source of funds for the mansion and the cars came solely from my personal trust prior to the marriage. Make sure the bank seals are visible. Second, publish his abysmal performance reviews and the severe compliance violations regarding his client approvals at Alpha Solutions. I paused, spinning a Mont Blanc pen between my fingers, my eyes turning icy. And third, contact every single creditor he has. His credit cards, bank loans, and every shady personal loan he took out using his director title. Inform them that Patrick Vance is bankrupt and has been terminated from Apex. Demand they call in his debts immediately. Let's see if he still has the time to play the victim on the internet when the debt collectors are at his throat. Within 2 hours, my counterattack landed. There was no noisy shouting, no emotional pleas. Just cold, hard numbers and legal documents slamming right into the face of the internet. The bank statements proving my ownership were published on major financial news outlets. Patrick's termination files for incompetence and ethics violations went viral. The blade of public opinion flipped 180 degrees instantly. The same people who had cursed me that morning were now mocking Patrick's pathetic, freeloading facade. He called me. The phone rang incessantly. I picked it up and put it on speaker. Harper, you screwed me. Why did you post those documents online? He screamed. The bank just froze the last few $1,000s in my account. Creditors are blowing up my phone. Are you trying to kill me? Do you have any humanity left? Humanity? I laughed brightly. Patrick, when you made a video framing me for stealing your assets and robbing your mother, why didn't you mention humanity? Did you think social media was your private playground? I'm just helping you publicize the truth. You said you sweat blood and tears? Your performance reviews are a string of Fs. You lost the company money. If I hadn't covered for you, you would have gone to prison 3 years ago. I'm just taking back what's mine. What are you crying for? Harper, please. Stop, his voice broke. People are showing up to this motel to collect debts. My mom's blood pressure is spiking. I know I was wrong. I won't post any more videos. I'll delete it. Give me a way out, for the sake of our 7 years of marriage. You cut off your own way out the second you slapped me in the face. Stop calling me. Enjoy your internet fame. Goodbye, former director. I hung up and tossed the phone on the desk. I stood up and walked to the glass wall, looking down at the bustling streets of Manhattan. This was only the prelude. The true punishment, the most disgusting secret they had kept from me, which I had just uncovered, was sitting quietly in a safe, waiting to be opened. 3 days had passed since I threw Patrick and his mother out. The Hamptons mansion had been thoroughly sanitized, removing any lingering scent of cheap perfume or traces of the parasites. I assigned my internal audit team and trusted staff to search Patrick's old home office. I wanted to ensure he hadn't left behind any confidential corporate documents or hidden any valuables I hadn't yet inventoried. That afternoon, Liam brought me a biometric wooden lockbox. It was a box Patrick had hidden carefully beneath the floorboards under his desk. He always told me it contained sacred mementos from his late father, forbidding me from ever touching it. After my security experts bypassed the lock, the lid popped open. The contents inside were not sacred mementos. It was a pile of filthy papers, reeking of the ultimate rot of deceit. I picked up a stack of crumpled, handwritten receipts. My eyes narrowed as I read the scribbled ink. IOU. Borrower, Susan Vance. Amount, $45,000. Interest, 5% monthly. Purpose. Business. But the address attached belonged to a notorious underground gambling ring in Atlantic City. I froze for a few seconds, then let out a chilling, bone-deep laugh. So, Susan's relentless nagging for $50,000 to go to Beverly Hills for a facelift was a blatant lie. She was a gambling addict, craps, poker, roulette up to her neck in debt with the mob. The loan sharks had threatened to chop her hands off if she didn't pay. She had panicked, colluded with her son, and staged the plastic surgery play to siphon my money to pay off her gambling debts. They saw me as a walking ATM. An absolute fool. But that wasn't the most disgusting part. I flipped to the documents underneath. It was a real estate contract for a luxury high-rise condo on the Upper East Side. The primary buyer was Patrick Vance, but the co-owner was a completely unfamiliar name. Chloe Michaels. Attached were monthly transfer receipts from Patrick's secret account to hers, with nauseating memos, allowance for my baby, gifts for my princess, happy 7 months at the spa. While I had exhausted myself playing the frugal wife behind the scenes to lift his career, he used the very money I earned, the money I gifted him, to secretly keep a mistress. He bought her a house. He spoiled her. Rage erupted in my chest like a volcano. But I didn't scream. I didn't break anything. The pain of betrayal crossed the threshold of endurance and solidified into an agonizingly sharp, freezing block of ice. I picked up my phone and called Patrick. He answered after 2 rings. His voice whining and pathetic, like a stray dog backed into an alley. "Harper, you called me." "You changed your mind, right?" "Harper, I'm living a fate worse than death." The loan sharks came to the motel and smashed the door in. "Please save me. For the sake of our 7 years of marriage?" I asked coldly. "Yes. For our 7 years. Patrick, you truly are a gifted actor. You should have gone to Broadway instead of business. I just opened the wooden box you hid under your desk. What a surprise." The other end of the line went dead silent. Patrick's breathing stopped for a few seconds, followed by a panicked stutter. What box? Don't touch my personal belongings. Harper, you're violating my privacy." "Privacy? The privacy to keep a mistress using your wife's money?" "Who is Chloe Michaels, Patrick? You bought her a luxury condo on the Upper East Side. You give her tens of thousands a month. Meanwhile, you come home and scream at me for being a freeloader. And there's more. The $50,000 for your mother's boob job? She's over 60 and betting her life away in Atlantic City? She owes the mob $45,000? You two teamed up to put on a play to drain my accounts to pay off loan sharks and fund your whore. Did you think I was blind?" I heard Susan's shrill voice in the background. "What?" "She knows. Oh God, Patrick, we're dead. The sharks are going to kill me. Tell her to transfer a few grand, at least to hold them off." "Harper, listen to me. I can explain. It's not what you think. Chloe is just a business partner. And my mom, she just got tricked into a few bad hands. You're a CEO, you have infinite money. 50 grand is pocket change to you. Save my mom. Save me. If the mob gets reckless, my mom will die. If she dies, I'll send flowers. 50,000 is pocket change, yes, but I would rather throw it in the Hudson River or donate it to an orphanage than give a single cent to scum like you. Listen to me carefully, Patrick. I have sent the deed for your little mistress's condo to my lawyers. That property was purchased with marital funds. I am suing to take back every single brick. I will throw your precious Chloe onto the street, exactly like I threw you out. Harper. You can't do that. Chloe. She's pregnant. She's carrying my son. You have no right to take away my flesh and blood. If you touch her, I'll kill you. His words were like poisoned daggers plunging straight into my heart. Over the past 7 years, because of extreme corporate stress and carrying the entire conglomerate on my back during crises, I had suffered 2 miscarriages, making it incredibly difficult for me to ever conceive again. It was the deepest wound in my soul. And now, he used that pain to rub salt in the wound, protecting his trashy mistress and his bastard child. My eyes were blood red, but my voice remained as tranquil as a frozen lake. Pregnant? Congratulations. Let's see if your little mistress still wants to keep that baby when she finds out you're a jobless, bankrupt loser hunted by the mob, and her luxury condo is being seized by the courts. Wait for the subpoena, you piece of trash. I hung up, tossing the phone aside, and slumped into the sofa. I took a deep breath to stop my body from trembling. The game was just beginning. They had pushed me past my absolute limit. I wasn't just going to take my assets back. I was going to use my power to crush every hope, every escape route this traitor had left. I was going to watch them tear each other apart in the filthy mud they had created. Winter was setting in, and the freezing winds of New York bit at my face. But the cold outside was nothing compared to the ice in my mind. Early that morning, I woke up, applied flawless makeup, put on a custom-tailored burgundy power suit, and slipped into my sharpest stilettos. It was time to clean up the last piece of trash my traitorous husband had hidden using my blood money. The luxury condo was on the 28th floor of one of the most exclusive buildings on the Upper East Side. The security here was so tight a fly couldn't get in. But as the CEO of Apex Holdings, the parent company of the real estate management firm that owned the building, bypassing security and getting the master code to the door was effortless. I didn't go alone. Behind me were Liam and 2 of the top asset litigation lawyers in the city. I pushed the door open. I was immediately assaulted by the cloying smell of cheap perfume mixed with burnt designer candles, and the sight of empty wine bottles scattered across a sheepskin rug. On an emerald velvet sofa lay a girl around 25 years old, lounging lazily. She wore a sheer silk slip dress, holding a wine glass in one hand while scrolling through her phone and giggling. This was Chloe Michaels, Patrick's precious mistress, carrying what he called his heir. Hearing the door, she jumped, turning around with her perfectly winged eyeliner sharp and full of insolence. She looked me up and down, her eyes scanning my expensive suit before landing on the men in black standing behind me. Patrick had probably described his wife as an old, ugly, miserable housewife stuck in the kitchen, so she had absolutely no idea who the imposing woman standing in her living room was. Who the hell are you? How dare you break into my house? What is building management doing letting strangers up here? You have the wrong apartment. Get out before I have security throw you out in handcuffs. I didn't rush to answer. I walked slowly forward, using the pointed toe of my stiletto to kick an empty wine bottle out of my way. I scanned the massive flat-screen TV, the walnut dining table, the crystal chandelier. Everything draping her body, everything filling this disgusting love nest, was bought with money siphoned from my accounts. I smirked, a half-smile full of mockery. Call security. Go ahead. Let's see if the security here takes orders from you, or from me. You're Chloe Michaels, right? I guess Patrick hasn't updated you on his situation, so you still think you're the queen of this castle. Let me introduce myself. I am Harper Vance, the barren, freeloading wife your lover complains about every night. You're Patrick's wife? Chloe's face changed instantly. But the nature of a homewrecker is ultimate shamelessness. She didn't look scared or guilty. Instead, she stood up, intentionally pushing her flat stomach forward, and glared at me provocatively. Oh, so it's the wife. What are you here for? To fight me. You brought lawyers and bodyguards? Are you scared of me? Look at yourself. Old and dried up. No wonder Patrick is sick of you. He says sleeping with you is like sleeping next to a log. But me? I give him youth and sweetness. And most importantly, see this? I'm pregnant with his son. This baby is my golden ticket. Patrick promised to divorce you so he could bring me and his son to that $15 million mansion in the Hamptons. If you're smart, sign the divorce papers now before he physically throws you out. Every word she spat was a poison needle directly into my deepest scars. 2 miscarriages. Sleepless nights draining my life force for the company to the point of physical collapse. I sacrificed my chance at motherhood to advance his career. And now, my pain was a weapon for them to trample me. For this cheap trash to lecture me. My blood boiled, but on the outside, I remained as still as a 1,000-year-old glacier. I pulled out an armchair and sat down elegantly. The $15 million mansion? He promised to bring you there? That's a shame. 2 nights ago, I had my security drag him and his mother by their necks and throw them into a thunderstorm. They are currently hiding in some rat-infested motel, dodging hitmen sent by loan sharks. Do you not read the news or check social media? Your director Patrick was fired by the conglomerate, his accounts are frozen, and he is officially a bankrupt loser drowning in debt. You're lying, Chloe yelled. Patrick is a regional director. He's rich. I still have his black card right here. You're just jealous that I'm pregnant, so you're making up stories to scare me. You're an evil, bitter woman. If you can't have him, you want to destroy him. She frantically grabbed her phone from the table and dialed Patrick. Her hands were shaking violently. It rang for a long time before he finally picked up. I signaled Liam, who stepped forward, snatched the phone from her hand, and put it on speaker. Patrick's voice rasped through the speaker, panicked and pathetic. Chloe! Baby! Help me! I'm hiding under a bridge. The mob found the motel and broke 2 of my ribs. My mom is having heart palpitations and can't move. Do you have any cash left? Any jewelry? Bring it to me, I'm begging you. Harper took everything. I have nothing left, Chloe. What? What did you say? Chloe gasped. You have nothing? What about this condo? You said you bought it for me. You said you were a director. You promised me a life of luxury. You liar. You piece of trash. Who is going to pay for this baby? Are you trying to starve me? Chloe, you have to understand. Harper is the CEO of the conglomerate. She tricked me. You're at the condo, right? Take the deed and go take out a mortgage on it right now. Give me the cash to save my life. When I bounce back, I'll make it up to you. Hello? Chloe? Chloe stood paralyzed. The phone dropped to the sheepskin rug. The mask of arrogance shattered into a million pieces. She looked at me, her eyes filled with absolute horror. The golden ticket baby she had bragged about was now a worthless piece of trash. I waved my hand gently. My lawyer stepped forward, opened his briefcase, and placed a stack of documents stamped with a red seal onto the glass table, pushing them toward her. Open your eyes and look closely, I said. This luxury condo was purchased with funds transferred from my account to Patrick during our marriage. Under current state law, this is marital property, but the source of funds is 100% proven to be from my personal trust. Patrick committed fraud to transfer ownership and put your name on the deed. I have filed a lawsuit in the state Supreme Court to void this transaction and freeze the asset. The court has granted the injunction. As of right now, this property is seized. No! You have no right! Chloe screamed. This is my house. I'm pregnant. The law protects pregnant women. You're a robber. I stood up, my patience entirely depleted. I walked right up to her face, my eyes sharp as razor blades pinning her down. The law protects human rights. The law does not protect a fraudulent mistress who uses her body to siphon legal assets from someone else. You're pregnant? So what? That baby belongs to a traitorous piece of garbage. It has nothing to do with me. If you want, give birth to it and raise it yourself while its father gets chopped to pieces by the mob. As As for this house, you will not take a single brick. I turned to Liam, my voice echoing coldly through the room. Liam. Tell building security to give her 15 minutes to pack whatever cheap clothes she brought here and get out. All valuables, jewelry, and designer bags bought with Patrick's money stay here to be cataloged for debt recovery. Cut the power, cut the water, and deactivate her elevator fob immediately. If she resists, call the NYPD and have her arrested for obstructing a court-ordered asset seizure. Harper. Harper, please. Chloe dropped to her knees, grabbing my legs, sobbing hysterically. Her tears and snot ruined her expensive makeup. I'm sorry, I was tricked by Patrick. He told me he was getting a divorce. Please forgive me, let me stay here. I have nowhere to go. The baby is innocent. 10 minutes ago, she was arrogant, calling herself his youth and sweetness, insulting me as a dried-up log. Now, she was using the fetus to beg for pity. I coldly pulled my leg back, smoothing out the crease in my trousers, looking at her with absolute pity. You reap what you sow. When you were laying in my husband's bed, spending my money, did you think about the word innocent? Stop acting. Your 15 minutes started ticking. Pack your bags and get out before my men throw you into the hallway. It'll be very humiliating. I turned and walked decisively out of the apartment, leaving behind the desperate screams of the other woman. The air in the hallway was surprisingly fresh. The second blow had landed perfectly. I had cut off Patrick's final escape route. No house, no mistress to shelter him. Let's see what that traitorous man would use to defend himself against the death sentence waiting for him next. A week later, the atmosphere inside the corporate headquarters of Apex Holdings was thick with the solemn, suffocating silence of an emergency board meeting. The massive boardroom was encased in soundproof tempered glass. At the long mahogany oval table sat the most powerful shareholders and executives of the conglomerate, their faces severe. I sat at the head of the table in the CEO's chair, wearing a crisp black blazer, my fingers intertwined resting on the table. Today was not a meeting to discuss billion-dollar projects. It was an internal tribunal. The place where I would personally hammer the final nail into the coffin of Patrick Vance's career. The boardroom doors opened. Patrick was escorted in by two massive corporate security officers. His appearance made every shareholder in the room frown in disgust. He was no longer the slick-haired regional director in Italian suits. Before us was a ruined man. His beard was scruffy, his eyes sunken with dark, bruised bags. He wore a filthy, wrinkled shirt. He limped, the result of a severe beating by loan sharks a few days prior. He looked around the room with shattered eyes until he saw me sitting in the CEO's chair. Pure terror flashed in his eyes. He stumbled forward, gripping the edge of the table, his dry, cracked lips trembling. Harper. Why did you call me here? I've lost everything. The house is gone, the cars are gone. Chloe. She got an abortion and ran off with some other guy. My mom is in the hospital having heart attacks because we can't afford her medication. I'm begging you, just kill me and get it over with. Stop torturing me. He spoke while crying, a perfectly executed sympathy play. But in the business world, and especially to a woman whose heart he had killed, the tears of a traitor are the cheapest commodity on earth. I didn't answer him. I simply nodded to the chief internal auditor. A thick stack of files was slammed onto the table, sliding right in front of Patrick. Patrick, did you think getting fired, getting kicked out of your house, and being dumped by your mistress was the ultimate price you had to pay? I asked calmly. You're wrong. My punishment isn't just about kicking you out or taking back personal assets. Today, as CEO, I summoned you here to address the filthy money you embezzled from corporate funds during your 3 years as regional director. Embezzled? What are you talking about, Harper? Patrick stammered. I worked cleanly. I brought in dozens of contracts. I never embezzled anything. Board members, don't listen to her. She has a personal vendetta against me. Still stubborn to the very end. I smirked and pressed a button, lowering the massive projector screen behind me. Numbers, charts, and red-flagged invoices lit up the room. Cleanly? Fine, let's let the board see how clean you are. Open to page 1 of that file. The supply contract with Anvil Construction. The actual materials logged into inventory were only 60% of what was billed. For the other 40%, you colluded with their director to create fake invoices, pocketing nearly $1.5 million. Page 2. Your monthly, client networking expenses. You expensed hundreds of thousands of dollars, but the audits show it was used to buy designer bags and jewelry for your mistress, Chloe Michaels. I stood up, tapping my finger against the table in rhythm with my anger and his absolute depravity. Page 5. The $500,000 corporate grant that Apex Holdings released to build a charity shelter in your region. You wired it directly into an anonymous offshore account. Our legal team investigated. That account belongs to a mob boss in Atlantic City. You used the company's charity fund to pay off your mother's illegal craps and roulette debts. Embezzling charity funds, draining the company to fund your whore and pay off gambling debts. Did you think you were operating in the dark? I elevated you for 7 years, Patrick, but I was never blind. No. That's not true. Patrick screamed, dropping to his knees on the cold floor, beating his chest like a madman. Harper, listen to me. I just borrowed that money temporarily. I was going to pay it back with my end-of-year bonus. My mother forced me. She threatened to hang herself if I didn't pay her debts. And Chloe, she seduced me, she tricked me. I didn't mean to. Everyone, I'm innocent. Harper, please, remember our marriage. Forgive me this one time. Shifting the blame to his mother. Pushing the guilt onto his mistress. The true face of a cowardly, selfish man who dared to commit the crime but refused to do the time, exposed under the glaring lights of the boardroom. The chief legal counsel stood up, adjusted his glasses, and spoke with ironclad authority. Madam CEO, board members. The total amount, Mr. Patrick Vance has misappropriated through fraud, embezzlement, and forged documents totals $2,500,000. With the concrete evidence, bank statements, and signed confessions from complicit parties we have gathered. If we hand this file over to the FBI's Financial Crimes Division, Mr. Vance is looking at a minimum of 15 to 20 years in federal prison. 20 years? No, I won't go to prison. I don't want to die in a cell, Patrick shrieked. Harper, you're the CEO. $2.5 million is nothing to you. Pay it back for me. I'm begging you, tell the lawyers to stop. I'll be your slave. I'll serve you for the rest of my life. Just please don't send me to federal prison. He crawled on the floor, reaching out to grab the hem of my trousers. I took a cold step back, distancing myself from the garbage, trying to cling to me. Any pity I had died the night he slapped me to protect his mother's greed. Be my slave? I sneered. Do you think I need a diseased, treacherous dog like you? $2.5 million is nothing to me. Yes. But I would rather burn it to ash than use it to save an ungrateful traitor. Patrick, I will give you 2 choices. I pulled a pre-printed document from the file and threw it in front of him. First, you sign this document legally forfeiting all your stock options, corporate benefits, and agree to assume all your external personal debts without ever using Apex's name or my name to scam anyone again. In exchange, I will give you exactly 24 hours to walk into an FBI field office and turn yourself in for embezzlement. Surrendering might shave a few years off your sentence. Second, you refuse. And this afternoon, federal agents will raid whatever rat hole you're hiding in, put you in handcuffs in front of your mother and the whole neighborhood. Choose. You're forcing me to die. You're so evil. A woman like you will go to hell. He roared like a wounded animal, then collapsed onto the floor, sobbing uncontrollably. Evil? When he drained the company to fund his mistress, when he called me a freeloader, when his mother mocked me for being barren and demanded $50,000 to gamble. Did they think about the word evil? I was just restoring the natural order of things. The guilty must pay. I turned to Liam, not bothering to look at Patrick again. Liam, have security drag him out and give him the paper to sign. If he doesn't sign it, send the files to the DOJ this afternoon. Meeting adjourned. I turned on my heel and took long, confident strides out of the boardroom, leaving behind the desperate wails of the man who used to be my husband. The sentence had been passed. There was no leniency. No way out. 3 days after the internal tribunal, New York was hit with a brutal, unseasonable heat wave. The asphalt baked under the blinding sun, making the air thick and suffocating. I had just finished a meeting with foreign investors. My black Rolls-Royce pulled up to the main gates of Apex Holdings. As the car turned in, my driver suddenly slammed on the brakes, throwing me slightly forward. "Madam CEO, someone is blocking the car. It's Patrick Vance and his mother." I frowned and rolled down the tinted window. Under the scorching midday sun, the scene playing out made the corporate security guards and passing pedestrians stare in shock. Patrick and Susan were kneeling on the burning asphalt, blocking my car. They barely looked human anymore. Susan's hair was matted with sweat and grime, wearing a torn linen shirt, her bare feet blistered from the hot pavement. Patrick was in even worse shape. His face was covered in purple bruises, his arm wrapped in a crude bandage. He was clutching a plastic grocery bag containing a few rags. It seemed the loan sharks had smashed up their motel and thrown them out of their very last hiding spot. Seeing the window roll down, Susan acted like a drowning woman, grabbing a lifeline. She crawled on her knees, lunging toward my car door, ignoring the burning pavement. She banged her hands against the door, tears and snot streaming down her face, wailing hysterically. "Harper! Harper, save me! I'm begging you, I'm bowing to you. I was wrong. I was 1,000 times wrong. Open the door and let me in. The mob is trying to kill me. They said they're going to chop my hands off today if I don't pay. I have nowhere to go. Harper, please remember I used to cook you soup. Remember I called you my daughter-in-law. Give me a way to live. I'll kneel. I'll lick your shoes, just please don't leave me to die. Harper, please." Patrick begged. I signed the forfeiture papers. "I'm going to turn myself into the FBI this afternoon. I accept prison. But please, save my mom. Her heart is failing, she can't take this. Just loan us $50,000. Exactly $50,000 to pay off the mob. Then my mom will go live on a farm and never show her face to you again. You're so rich, $50,000 is nothing. Have mercy on us, Harper." They slammed their heads against the asphalt. Blood seeped from their foreheads, mixing with sweat and dirt. Office workers walking by started pointing and whispering. It was a classic theatrical display of beggars backed into a corner. I sat still in the air-conditioned Rolls-Royce, my eyes as calm as a deep, rippleless lake, completely unfazed by the pathetic display outside. I opened the door and stepped out in my stilettos onto the burning pavement, my silk blazer blowing in the hot wind. Liam immediately popped an umbrella to shade me from the sun. Security moved in to drag them away, but I raised a hand to stop them. I wanted to face this brutal conclusion myself. I looked down at Susan, who was grabbing the hem of my trousers. I coldly yanked my fabric out of her filthy hands. $50,000. Mom, do you remember the night of the housewarming party? You sat on my $15 million sofa, wearing expensive pearls, and what did you say to me? You called me a freeloader. A useless parasite. You told me if I didn't give you $50,000 for plastic surgery, I should pack my bags and get out of the house. I told you my money was made with blood and tears. You laughed and said your son was a dragon, a phoenix, the one who made the money. So where is your dragon now? Why is he kneeling on the ground like a stray dog begging for money from a freeloader like me? I was possessed by a demon. Susan sobbed. I was blind. I was a monster. It was Chloe. Patrick's mistress brainwashed me. She told me to kick you out so she could move in. I was stupid to listen to her. I regret it so much. Harper, you are a living saint, you are generous, please forgive this old woman. She cried, shifting all the blame onto the mistress. The deceptive nature of the greedy truly doesn't change, even at death's door. I smirked, turning to Patrick, who was shivering beside her, too terrified to look up. And you, Patrick. You say you're going to surrender, that you're going to prison for embezzlement, adultery, and stealing corporate funds to pay for whores and casinos. Do you think that makes you a martyr? Do you think that forces me to use my money to clean up the trash you two created? Do you remember the slap you gave me that night? That slap killed the foolish, loyal wife who loved you. The Harper Vance standing in front of you now is someone you will never, ever have the right to beg for mercy. Harper, I know I'm a bastard, but my mom is innocent. She got tricked at the casino. If you don't save her, the mob will actually kill her. You're a CEO, you have so much power. Just one phone call and they'd back off. Save her. She's innocent. Innocent? Taking charity money meant for orphans to go play craps is innocent? I took a step forward, leaning down, my voice sharp as a razor, severing his final thread of hope. Listen to me closely, Patrick. From this day forward, whether you and your mother live or die, whether you get chopped up by the mob or rot in a federal cell, you mean less to me than dust on the street. I would rather spend $50,000 feeding stray dogs than throw it at the people who trampled on my dignity and my blood. I stood up. Liam. Call the NYPD to clear the traffic obstruction. And call the FBI to come pick him up. Don't let them dirty my corporate gates for another second. I turned and stepped back into the luxurious Rolls-Royce. The heavy door slammed shut, locking out the agonizing, guttural wails of Patrick and Susan. The car slowly rolled forward, gliding past the two broken figures kneeling under the blinding sun, sliding deep into the mud of their own despair. They had destroyed paradise with their own hands to choose hell. And in that hell, there would never be forgiveness. The game was over. Perfect and utterly ruthless. 3 days after that scorching afternoon outside Apex Holdings, I received a call from the FBI Financial Crimes Division. They requested that I personally come in to finalize some paperwork and sign the victim impact statement before they officially handed the embezzlement case over to the district attorney. Liam had prepared a team of top-tier corporate lawyers to go in my place, wanting to spare me from dealing with the filth. But I declined. Deep down, a strange sense of calm urged me to make this trip myself. Not to gloat. Not to flaunt my victory. I went to personally slam the door shut on a dark, ignorant, and deceitful chapter of my life. The interrogation room was freezing, reeking of stale tobacco and damp drywall. A gray metal table sat in the middle of the room, dividing the space into two completely different worlds. I sat on a wooden chair, my back perfectly straight, wearing a minimalist but immaculately tailored black suit. I wore very little makeup, yet still radiated an overwhelming presence. The clanking of metal echoed down the hall. The heavy steel door opened. 2 federal agents escorted Patrick inside. Seeing him, I didn't even blink. My heart rate didn't fluctuate by a fraction of a second. The man who had shared my bed for 7 years, the man I had pulled out my own organs to elevate, was now drowning in an oversized orange prison jumpsuit. His face was so hollowed out his cheekbones looked like a skeleton's. His eyes were dead and glassy. The hands that had once slapped my mouth bloody were now locked in cold steel handcuffs. When he saw me, a flash of light sparked in his cloudy eyes, like a drowning man seeing a raft. He dragged the metal chair out and sat across from me, his breathing heavy and raspy. Harper. Thank you. Thank you for coming to see me. I knew it. I knew you still cared about me. We were so happy for 7 years. Harper, I'm sorry. A million times sorry. I've been in holding for days. And I haven't stopped crying for a single night. I regret everything. I sat with my arms crossed, my dry eyes staring straight at his face, contorted by crocodile tears. His hypocrisy had seeped so deeply into his blood that even at the gates of hell, he was still delusional enough to think he could manipulate me with cheap sentimentality. Patrick, did you have me called down here just to listen to this hollow garbage? My time is very expensive. If you have nothing relevant to say about verifying the $2.5 million you stole from my company, I'll ask the agents to take you back to your cell. I didn't come here to reminisce with a federal inmate. No! Please don't go, he begged. Harper, I asked you to come to tell you something. My mom is dead, Harper. He choked out a sob. Last night, the loan sharks found her under a bridge. They threatened her, they beat her. She had a massive heart attack. No one called an ambulance. She died alone. She died with her eyes open. Harper, my mom paid the price. A life for a life. Is that enough for you? Is this punishment cruel enough yet? Will you show mercy? Can you write a letter to the DA asking for leniency? I lost my mother, I don't want to lose my whole life in prison. He collapsed onto his handcuffs, weeping mournfully. The news of Susan's death echoed in the quiet room, but it didn't stir a single ripple of pity in my heart. A woman who spent her life thriving on greed and deceit, who scammed her daughter-in-law to gamble, who incited her son to betray his family. She didn't die because I was cruel. She died because of her own bottomless greed and malice. Karma. The law of cause and effect never misses anyone. It's only a matter of when it arrives. I sighed softly, pushing the victim's statement toward him, tapping my finger on the metal table. Your mother's death is a tragedy, Patrick. But it is a tragedy written and directed by the two of you. You ask if this punishment is enough? You still don't get it. I am not punishing you. The law, and karma, are simply taking back what you sowed. You embezzled $2.5 million. You took charity money meant for the poor and threw it at a casino. You lied to me to buy a house for your mistress. Did I force you to do those things? Your mother died of a heart attack being chased by loan sharks, not because I stabbed her. Stop playing the victim. It's disgusting. But Harper, you loved me, he cried. Do you remember that rainy night 7 years ago? I was just a poor loser. I kneeled in the rain and put a silver ring on your finger. You cried and said you didn't care about money, you just wanted me. Why have you become so cold-blooded? So ruthless that you'd back your own husband into a dead end like this? Where is the Harper from back then? He dug up the past to gnaw on it, using the rare, beautiful memories to try and claw at my conscience. But he forgot that he was the one who strangled the naive girl named Harper from 7 years ago. I tilted my head, looking at him with ultimate pity. The Harper from 7 years ago is dead, Patrick. She died the night you swung your hand and slapped her bloody because she refused to give your mother $50,000 for plastic surgery. She died when you called her a useless parasite, while she had spent her youth and her fortune paving your way to the director's chair. You ask me why I'm cold-blooded? Your arrogance, your ingratitude, and your betrayal froze my heart. I slowly stood up, smoothing out my blazer. I pulled a gold-plated Montblanc pen from my purse and slammed it onto the statement in front of him. For 7 years, I dimmed my light just so it wouldn't blind you. I dragged myself through the mud just so your cheap ego could fly high. That was the biggest mistake of my life. I came here today for one last look at you. To remind myself that a woman's blind sacrifice will only ever earn the contempt of shameless men. Sign the paper. Take your 15 or 20 years and sit in your cell and think about it. In this life, we are utterly severed. Even if you rot to bone in federal prison, I will never look back at you again. Harper, don't go. Please save me. Harper. I turned on my heel and walked decisively toward the door, leaving behind his hoarse, agonizing screams echoing off the cold walls. The steel door slammed shut, shattering the traitor's final delusion. Walking out of the FBI building, the New York sky was a brilliant, endless blue. A cool breeze blew past, catching the loose strands of my hair. I looked up and took a deep breath. The air had never tasted so pure and free. This cold period wasn't an ending. It was a new beginning. A rebirth from the ashes of a fire I had lit myself. 12 months passed since the day I closed that brutal chapter. New York transitioned into the vibrant hues of autumn. Leaves drifted down the avenues of Central Park, swirling in the wind. Time is the most miraculous healer, but also the clearest mirror reflecting a person's transformation. The $15 million Hamptons estate had been completely gutted and remodeled. The gaudy leather, the tacky chandeliers, and the ostentatious vibes they had loved were thrown straight into the dumpster. In its place was a minimalist, elegant space of ivory and natural wood, flooded with natural light and the scent of fresh lilies. I no longer had to wake up at 5:00 a.m. to slave over a stove, brewing complex broths to appease a bitter mother-in-law. I no longer had to pretend to wear knockoff clothes from a discount rack, so my useless husband could feel like a provider. I woke up at 7:00 a.m., sipped Earl Grey tea on my windy balcony wrapped in premium silk, and read financial reports detailing hundreds of millions in profit for Apex Holdings. I had taken absolute control of my own empire. The business flourished under my direct leadership. The major partners and multinational CEOs who once reluctantly shook Patrick's hand now looked at me with deep respect and admiration. They called me the Iron Queen of New York real estate. I no longer had to hide my intelligence, my decisiveness, or my brilliance. I shined through my own merit, needing no disguise, and absolutely refusing to bow in the shadow of any man. As for the people who had sowed misery in my life, I occasionally heard updates from Liam, treating them like trivial news briefs. Patrick was sentenced to 18 years in federal prison for felony fraud, embezzlement, and racketeering. With no money for restitution, no top-tier defense lawyers, and the mob connections exposed, the judge threw the book at him. They said that in prison, he aged 10 years in one. His hair turned white. He spent his days in sullen silence, occasionally muttering my name in belated, useless regret. As for Chloe Michaels, the sweet little mistress who proudly patted her belly and declared her golden ticket, after I repossessed the luxury condo and froze the accounts, she ruthlessly aborted the baby and chased after a scam artist crypto bro. She ended up getting viciously beaten by his actual wife, her face ruined, forced to live in hiding. All karmic debts had been paid in full. The ashes of the past had been completely blown away by the wind. Tonight, I was attending a charity gala that gathered the absolute elite of the city. Stepping out of my luxury car, I wore a daring but incredibly elegant emerald green evening gown, a brilliant diamond necklace I bought for myself resting on my collarbone. Camera flashes went off endlessly. Admiring gazes turned my way. I walked the red carpet with pride, no longer the timid, enduring shadow walking a step behind her husband like I was at that housewarming party a year ago. Amidst the dazzling lights and soaring symphony music, a man in his early 40s, with a distinguished aura and a warm smile, approached to offer me a glass of champagne. He was the CEO of a massive financial firm, someone who had witnessed my explosive rise in the business world over the past year. There was no pity in his eyes, no exploitation. There was only absolute respect and admiration for a woman of power. We clinked glasses, discussing future projects and strategic visions. He wasn't intimidated by my brilliance. On the contrary, he found it intensely magnetic. I took a sip of the champagne, the crisp, dry sweetness blooming on my tongue. It's true, when you're at the bottom of the mud, you are surrounded only by mosquitoes and parasites waiting to trample you. But when you bravely stand up, shatter the shackles of submission, and climb to the peak on your own 2 feet, you will meet people on your level. People who know how to respect your true value. My rebirth was not just about taking back my assets. It was about taking back my dignity, taking back my right to live a proud and brilliantly radiant life. I had burned to ash, but from that ash, a phoenix took flight, and absolutely nothing could stop it. New York tonight was quiet and gentle. Sitting on my balcony, looking at the city lights glittering like stars fallen to earth, my heart had never felt so peaceful. A story about a wife hiding her billionaire status to protect her husband's pride, getting slapped bloody for refusing to pay for her mother-in-law's plastic surgery, and finally striking back to take her empire. It sounds like a dramatic soap opera script, doesn't it? But no. That is exactly what I, in the flesh, experienced, endured, and conquered. To you, my dear listeners, especially the women more than anyone, I understand the desire to sacrifice everything for the person you love. We are always taught that women should step back, hide their intelligence, and hide their success to save face for their men. We fear that if we are too smart or too rich, the man will feel inferior and leave us. But my friends, that is a fatal mistake. A man who truly loves you, a man of real substance, will be proud of your achievements. He will hold your hand and walk forward with you. He won't ask you to crawl into the shadows to serve as a backdrop for his fake light. Never blow out your own candle, just to make a talentless man feel like he shines. Because when you back yourself into a corner, what you receive in return will not be gratitude. It will be a callous slap and brutal oppression. Exactly what Patrick and his mother did to me. Look at the story of the $50,000. It wasn't that I missed the money. I refused to compromise with a bottomless pit of greed, arrogance, and lies. Money is the most brutal test of human nature. When you give them money, they treat it as your obligation and their talent. But the moment you stop providing, the true face of the demons will instantly reveal itself. Never harbor the illusion that your endurance and your hard-earned money can buy the loyalty of someone born with a traitor's nature. And the greatest, bloodiest lesson I want to leave you with is this. The ultimate weapon of a woman in this society is not her beauty. It is not her sacrifice. It is not her tears. The ultimate weapon is absolute financial independence. When you have money and power created by your own hands, you have the right to say no to the unreasonable. When you are betrayed, instead of screaming and begging, you can hold your head high, make a phone call, freeze the accounts, fire the traitor, and kick the gold diggers out of your life with perfect elegance. Money cannot buy true happiness, but money you make yourself will buy you safety. It buys you freedom. And it buys you the power to punish those who dare to hurt you. Many people asked me why I didn't forgive them, why I drove them into a corner, sent Patrick to prison, let Susan die in poverty, and kicked the mistress to the curb. My friends, the highest realm of healing is not forgiving your enemies. It is letting them go, and letting the law, both legal and karmic, do its job. Forgiving cruelty is just being cruel to yourself. I didn't get revenge by stabbing anyone or screaming in the streets. I got revenge by taking back exactly what belonged to me, exposing their crimes to the light, and letting them pay the price for their own greed. After it all, I left that pile of trash behind and continued walking my path in the most brilliant way possible. That is the sweetest, proudest revenge. Life is a series of trials, and sometimes the truth is bone-chillingly cruel. If you are in a toxic relationship, if you are being looked down upon, if your kindness is being exploited, please, stop enduring. Stand up. Dry your tears. Take control of your own life. Go out there, work, make your own money, and build your own empire, no matter how small. Remember, no matter how violent the storm is tonight, the sun will rise tomorrow, and you have every right to choose a radiant dawn for yourself. My dear friends, while listening to this confession, did you ever feel a lump in your throat, finding a piece of your own life within it? Has anyone out there sacrificed so much they were treated as cheap? Endured so much they lost their own voice? If the story of my uprising today gives you a little strength, a little sharpness to fiercely protect yourself, please leave a comment and share it with me. Who knows? Your empathy might just be the guiding light for a desperate woman out there somewhere. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel so we can meet again. Peeling back the hidden corners of humanity and healing kindred souls in the stories to come.